When I was a kid, my grandma would correct me if she heard me using bad grammar. For instance, if I told her something like, "My friend draws good," she would say, "No, Dale, he doesn't draw good, he draws well." Grammar lays out the basic rules of a language to ensure we're speaking correctly. And if you grew up with a grandma like mine, you'll know that good grammar is essential to effective communication. So, Christians believe that God is Trinitarian. The word Trinity means three in one, and to say that God is a Trinity means he is one single, undivided God, and yet at the very same time, three distinct persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. This can cause a lot of confusion among non-Christians who know as well as we do that 1 + 1 + 1 equals 3. So either the Christians worship three different gods, or they just can't do simple math. Even many Christians find the idea of the Trinity difficult to explain, so they don't tend to emphasize it a lot. This confusion comes, in part, because often we think about the Trinity as though it were sort of a schematic that describes what God's inner workings look like. And because God is God and we're not, any attempt to sketch out a schematic for God is bound to fail. So perhaps a better way to think about the Trinity is as a grammar for God talk. Just like English grammar lays out the guidelines for using the English language correctly, the Trinity lays out the guidelines for speaking correctly about God. You see, the very first Christians were all first-century Jews, and they took the teaching of the Torah very seriously when it says that the Lord your God is one God, and you shall love him with all your heart. There's only one God. That's the most basic rule of God grammar. But at the same time, they had encountered the man, Jesus Christ, a first-century Jew who taught them to pray to God as if they were talking to a loving Father. And then they saw him crucified and rise again the third day. And here's the thing, their encounter with the living Jesus was so profound that they began to worship him as God. So, Jesus is God. That's another rule of God grammar. But then, if someone were to ask them, "Are you saying that Jesus is the same as God the Father?" they would have had to say, "No, Jesus is fully God, otherwise we can't worship him. But at the same time, he spoke to God as his heavenly Father and taught us to do the same. So Jesus is not God the Father." To say that would be bad grammar. Of course, 50 days after Jesus' resurrection, the Holy Spirit came and filled those first Christians up to overflowing with his love. And the experience they had of the Holy Spirit was just like the experience they had of Jesus. So they started talking about the Holy Spirit in the same way as they did Jesus. The Holy Spirit is God. Good God grammar. But the Holy Spirit reveals Jesus to us and reminds us of his teaching, so he's not the Son or the Father. To say that would be bad grammar. The Trinity then lays out the guidelines for speaking correctly about God. There's only one God. The Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit is God. The Son is not the Father and the Holy Spirit is not the Son. All those statements are good grammar. But if we say that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit are all just different appearances of the same single God, or if we talk about the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as though they were three different gods or one was not God, in each of those cases we're using bad grammar. But if we say something like, "The grace of God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit be with you all," in that case, we're speaking good about God.